Mary Belcher is going to give a very brief little informational chat about what's going on in Pierce Park. And then we have the important matter of what's going to happen to Columbia Road. I think that it's very, very serious, so please stay with us because we need to vote on what's on your agenda. It's not written quite like a resolution, but I'll explain as we go along. So here you go, Mary.
I'm one of those loud talkers too, but I guess I'll have to use this. I handed out some handouts. There's going to be a meeting on Tuesday at Marie Reed where Department of Parks and Recreation is going to update folks on the final phase of renovations to Walter Pierce Park. I think probably the big issue on that evening is going to be the location of a high-tech bathroom. But KCA members for 17, 18 years now have been supporting our work at Walter Pierce Park. When I say our work, I mean people like Dennis, people like me, some of you out there. Yeah, it's a grassroots group and we use KCA for getting grants, and like we use KCA. But we also receive private donations from members, so we're very appreciative of having KCA as one of our chief allies, maybe our only ally from time to time. But for 5 years now, descendants of people buried in the cemeteries at Walter Pierce Park have been asking Department of Parks to create signage. I'm sure many of you are already aware of this project. And they said yes 5 years ago, but there were a few delays. Pandemics, budget issues, lack of will that got in the way. But we're once again working with the Department of Parks to create what is basically 9 signs along the wall that separates the upper portion of the park from the ball fields down below. So we're very close to having those completed. I handed out kind of the mock-ups for the signage. And before our friend Mark Mack, the Howard University archaeologist, passed away at a young age in an auto accident, he told me, if we do anything here to commemorate these people, these 8,428 people, we should put their names, their ages, and their death years on signage in the park. So that's exactly what we're doing now. And the reason Mark felt strongly about that was that he was one of the lead scientists on the African Burial Ground Project in New York, where 400 anonymous sets of remains were unearthed by a construction crew, studied for about 10 years by Howard University, and then reburied. And that was one thing he said he really felt was disappointing about their work up in New York, that they never knew who these people were. They could detect their ages from their remains, they could know their sexes, but they didn't know their names. So in the course of our work, we did find 8,428 names of people buried at the Walter Pierce Park Cemeteries. And the descendants have been with us all the way. That was another tenet that Mark insisted on, that the descendants lead the way on this. So very soon we will have commemorative signage in the park. Again, I really appreciate KCA's continued involvement in this, your individual involvement. I'm looking forward to a really good dedication ceremony as soon as these signs are in the ground. Not too deeply in the ground, but standing and ready to read. You know, we'll probably spend a little KCA money on bags of potato chips and things like that, but I'm hoping we could spend more city money than KCA money on things. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer you either by email or you can go to the website, which is walterpierceparkcemeteries.org. Ted, is that Ted?
I was just wondering whether it was your impression that Department of Parks and Rec would actually be listening to people who come to the meetings, or will they be simply telling us what they're going to do?
Gee. They have.
My experience with the Walter Pierce Park meetings has been that it has all been column B. They do listen to you, they listen to Dennis occasionally, but they really seem to be resistant to community input, and it's very frustrating to go to a meeting like that.
I agree, it's very frustrating. But I told them in no uncertain terms that they couldn't do this without us. So they decided to do it with us, this commemorative signage. We're in a period of reckoning, socially, racially, and I think the timing is right for this sort of project. So the forces were with us. But I agree that there's sort of a unilateral decision-making where we go to a meeting and see a little PowerPoint presentation. But in this case, this is truly a grassroots, descendant-driven project, the commemorative project. I can't speak about the bathroom. I'm glad to be out of that because I'm sure there's a lot of controversy as to where it should be located. But on this park signage, they're very much having to listen to us. But your point's totally valid.
And when the meeting's going to be again?
The meeting is on the back of the handout. It's going to be Tuesday, September 26th at 6:30 p.m. at Marie Reed Rec Center. You enter through the pool entrance. And according to this handout, there is a virtual component to this meeting if you don't want to come in person. The last meeting we had, I was really gratified because we had probably 8 or 10 descendants there, and it was about 12 people at the meeting. So, and a lot of them don't live in town, so anyway. So thank you, KCA, thank you, Dennis. We're sticking with it. Going into 20 years now. Only takes 20 years to get a few signs in the park. Yes, at the back of the room.
What about the Quakers?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
What about the Quakers?
What about the Quakers? The descendant of the man who founded the Quaker Cemetery in 1807 is part of our group. However, the Friends meeting in Washington has not been that active in our efforts. And I say that as a lapsed Quaker. I'm just speaking truth. They're always invited. So. Any other questions or observations? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. She's the driving force behind this whole thing. Without her, this would not be happening. Simple as that. Thank you very much.